Hello students, welcome. This video lecture is for Class 6th Science, Chapter number 4, Sorting Materials into Groups. It is lecture number 5 and here we will be covering the summary. Let's start the revision with first topic, meaning and importance of sorting. We can see around us a chair, a bullock cart, a cycle, cooking utensils, books, clothes, toys, water, stones, and many other objects. All these objects have different shapes, colors, and uses. In this picture above, you can find some of the common items that you can see around you. There is a diversity of objects around us. We are surrounded with different types of objects. All objects around us are made of one or more materials. These materials may be glass, metal, plastic, wood, cotton, paper, mud, or soil. Can you think of more examples of materials? The next question which arises is, what do you understand by the term sorting? Students, grouping similar things together is called sorting. It also means grouping, classification, or categorization. You can check here that sorting can also be called as classifying, categorizing, and grouping. Why do we need to do grouping? Or why grouping is important? There are few reasons why do we promote grouping or sorting of materials. Number one, it helps in categorizing the objects. Number two, it becomes easy to arrange things. Number three, it helps to identify the objects. Number four, it makes study of different objects easier. Number five, it helps us in understanding differences and similarities among different objects. Alright, now let's have a look. How do we group materials? Definitely, similarities and differences in properties of materials help in their grouping. We group different objects all together on the basis of their similarities and differences in the properties. We may check their hardness, we may check their solubility, we may check if they are eatable, they are miscible. All these properties help us to differentiate and to categorize all the objects around us. Students, do not worry, we will be learning about some of these properties in detail. Moving on to the next topic we will be covering is matter, solid, liquid, and gas. Now let's discuss and understand what is matter. Matter is anything that occupies space and has mass. It includes all materials found in the universe. The important property is the matter is anything that occupies space and has mass. Let's now talk about what are the states of matter, or we can also say the types of matter. We have altogether three types of matter, starting with solid, then liquid, and gas. Let's have a look at the properties of these different states of matter, starting with properties of solids. If we talk about shape, their shape is fixed. Mass, mass of solids is also fixed. Volume, it means the space which they occupy. Yes, it is also fixed. And we know that solids cannot flow. You can check here that all the particles which consist a solid are closely intact. They have fixed shape, mass, volume, and they do not flow. Let's now discuss properties of liquids. We all know that liquids do not have fixed shape. Rather, they take the shape of the container in which they are kept. Mass, yes, they have fixed mass. As far as volume is concerned, it is also fixed. It's interesting that liquids can flow. You can check here, the particles of liquids do not have fixed shape. In whichever container they are kept, they take up the shape. Mass and volume of these particles is also fixed. Finally, properties of gas. Students, gases do not have fixed shape. As liquids, they also take the shape of the container in which they are kept. Mass, they do have fixed mass. Volume, their volume is also not fixed. They occupy all the available space. Also, gases can flow. If you look here, you can see that the full volume of the container is occupied by the gaseous particles. They do not have fixed volume nor the fixed shape, but they have fixed mass. I have summarized all the properties of the matter in this table. Let's start and reiterate all the properties. States of matter, solids, they have fixed or definite shape. Mass, again definite. Volume, definite. If we talk about liquid, it takes the shape of the container. Yes, its mass is fixed or definite. As far as volume is concerned, it is also definite. For third state, that is gas, they take the shape of the container. As far as mass is concerned, they do have fixed mass or definite mass. Volume, they occupies all the space available to them. In this third topic, we will be covering the properties of materials. Some common properties of materials are: number one, appearance. That is, how do they look? Number two, hardness. Number three, transparency. Number four, floating. Number five, solubility. In this chapter, we will be differentiating or grouping the objects around us on the basis of these five properties. Let us now understand all these properties one by one. The first property is appearance, that is lustre, or it also means shining. The property by virtue of which objects appear shining is called lustrous. Students, it means the property which makes the object to shine is called lustrous. We have divided the objects on the basis of luster into two categories: lustrous materials and non-lustrous materials. You can check here the metallic coins and the jewelry made up of gold and silver are glittering, having shine and bright. So they are examples of lustrous materials. You can check here plastic bottles, rubber tires, they do not have shine, rather they appear dull. So they are the examples of non-lustrous materials. The next property is hardness, the property by virtue of which objects resist any change in their shape and size on applying pressure, that is compression. Dear students, anything which can be compressed and which cannot be compressed is determined on the basis of the property hardness. We have broadly divided the objects on the basis of hardness into two categories: hard materials and soft materials. Here are few examples of hard materials. Students, you can try pressing any of these materials available around you. You will find that even you apply pressure, you will fail to change their shape and size because they are hard. Once again, we have few pictures of objects. If you will try to apply pressure on any of these, you will find you are successful in changing their shape and size because they are soft and they can be compressed easily. In lecture number 2, we learnt about two properties: appearance and hardness. Now, let's start the topic with third property. It is transparency. The property by virtue of which objects allow light to pass through them. Types of materials on the basis of transparency. The materials can be categorized into three types. Number 1, transparent. Number 2, translucent. Number 3, opaque. With the help of this picture, you can at least understand what does these three terms meant: transparent, opaque and translucent. You can see a boy is holding three different types of materials. Through one of them, we are unable to see his face. Through one, we can see his face, but it is not clear. And through the third material, we can clearly see his face. Few examples of transparent objects: clean air, glass, clean water, and lenses. In the following pictures, you can have a look at some transparent materials. Few examples of translucent objects are oil paper, butter paper, plastic cups, and window glass. Here, the window glasses are hazy in appearance and are not clear. Some common examples of opaque objects are wall, wood, book, and tiles. The fourth property is floating. The property by virtue of which objects float on the surface of liquid is called floating. The types of materials on the basis of floating. Altogether, the materials can be divided into two categories. Either they float or they sink. Here you can see some objects are floating on the surface of water. A plastic ball, plastic bottle, balloon, plastic pen, and a shuttlecock. Students, if the object has a lesser density than water, then the object will float on water. You can observe here that some materials are present at the bottom. If the object has more density than water, then it will sink in water. The last property which is given in our syllabus is solubility. The property by virtue of which the objects or the substances dissolve in another substance. On the basis of solubility, the materials can be divided as soluble material or insoluble material. Let's understand it with the help of diagram. Sugar, when mixed with water, will get sugar solution. However, if we will pour sand in water, it will not dissolve or disappear completely. Hence, we will not obtain any solution. Like we discussed about soluble and insoluble materials. In the same way, if we mix one liquid with another, what happens? Let's try and find it out. Miscible. The liquids that mix with water completely are called miscible with water. Examples: milk and lemon juice. You can see lemon juice is miscible in water. Immiscible. The liquids that do not mix with water completely are called immiscible. Few examples: oil, kerosene, and petrol. You can see here in the picture, when oil was poured into water, instead of mixing, it forms a separate layer over the surface of liquid. Hence, oil is immiscible in water. Solvent. The liquid in which the materials get dissolved is called solvent. In general, it is the larger portion of a solution. Whereas solute, the material which gets dissolved in the solvent, is called solute. In general, it is the smaller portion of a solution. At last, we can summarize that solvent plus solute gives the solution. That's all for this video lecture. Thank you.